As your days, so shall your strength be. May I speak to you in the name of God. Amen. Please be seated. My name is Mariann Budde, and I add my welcome to that of Dean Hollerith to all who've come to pray and to celebrate Dr. Goodall's life. And let me begin by expressing the collective gratitude of all gathered here and those who are with us online to you, Jane's family and close circle of friends and beloved colleagues. In your personal grief, you have once again shared Jane with the world. She often spoke of herself as the personal Jane and the global icon Jane. She knew the difference, although one of her many gifts was to make all of us feel equally prized in her presence. Yet you were the ones who knew and loved her best, and whom she loved so dearly. Thanks as well to the tributes and readings and musical offerings and prayers that in this service beautifully express the breadth and depth of Jane's spirit that lives on, a spirit that lives on through the lives she touched. One of the earliest Christian leaders was a bishop named Irenaeus. In searching for words to describe the mystery of Christ, he wrote, "The glory of God is a human being fully alive." And it's a phrase that went viral in a second century sort of way, and it's often quoted still as a way to describe the miracle of any human being fully alive. And as we know and have so wondrously heard today, Jane Goodall was a fully alive human being, and she cherished her relationships with other fully alive beings, some of which were human. And she dedicated her fully alive life in service to all life and to the care of planet Earth upon which our lives depend. And as we know and have heard today, she also experienced mystical encounters with the mystery we call God. At pivotal moments, she felt summoned to particular and enormous tasks, which she sometimes spoke of in biblical terms. The still small voice speaking to her at the depths of her being, her road to Damascus moment, when, like the Apostle Paul, her life seemingly turned on a dime and she went from naturalist to global advocate. And as the one called upon here to speak to the spiritual dimensions of Jane's life and the promise of life beyond death that she anticipated so confidently, I find myself wanting simply to read to you some of her own words. Some you know well, but surely we can all hear them again. Of her early years in Tanzania, she wrote, "All the time I was getting closer to animals and nature, I was, as a result, getting closer to myself and more in tune with the spiritual power that I felt all around. For those who have experienced the joy of being alone with nature, there's really little need for me to say much more. For those who have not, no words of mine can describe the powerful, mystical knowledge of beauty and eternity that come suddenly and unaware. The beauty is always there, but moments of true awareness are rare. They would come unannounced, perhaps as I was watching the pale flush preceding dawn, or looking up through the rustling leaves of some giant forest tree into the green and browns and black shadows and the occasionally ensnared bright fleck of blue sky, or when I stood, as darkness fell, with one hand on the still warm trunk of a tree and looked at the sparkling of an early moon on the never still, softly sighing water of Lake Tanganyika. A decade later, during what she described in her understated way as an emotionally trying period, she had the opportunity to go to Paris. And as we heard while she was there, she visited the Cathedral of Notre Dame with enormous questions stirring in her heart. Questions like, was there a guiding force in the universe? A creator of matter and thus of life itself? Was there a purpose to life on planet Earth? And if so, what role were we humans supposed to play in the overall picture? And in particular, what was my role to be? She later wrote, "Little did I know how important that visit would be, for that was where I had an experience of ecstasy, or so it seemed to me, a moment of eternity. I realized that my experiences in the forest, my understanding of the chimpanzees, had given me a new perspective. I personally was utterly convinced that there was a great spiritual power that we call God, Allah, Brahma, although I knew equally certain that my finite mind could never comprehend its form or nature. And I think my experience in Notre Dame was a sort of call to action. I think I heard, in a form suitable for mortal ears, the voice of God. And while Jane felt singularly and distinctly called to live fully the life God had given her, as you well know, part of her life's mission was to persuade all of us to live such lives ourselves. As iconic as she knew herself to be, and as she accepted that role, she still didn't want to be put on a pedestal. In this way, she reminds me a bit of Dorothy Day, the Roman Catholic laywoman, lifelong pacifist, committed to voluntary poverty along destitute men and women living at the margins of our affluence. "Don't call me a saint," Dorothy Day would say. "I don't want to be dismissed that easily," which meant don't place me in a category set apart from you as a way to justify your passivity. Well, in God's sense of humor, as it turns out, Dorothy Day is in fact on her path towards canonization as a saint. And Jane herself once wrote, "We all have to evolve, all of us, from ordinary, every human beings into saints. Ordinary people like you and me will have to become saints, or at least mini-saints. The great saints and the masters were not supernatural beings, they were mortals like us, made of flesh and blood. They, like us, needed air to breathe and food and drink. And they believed in a spiritual power, in God, that enabled them to tap into that great energy. And we must strive, each of us, to join them." And then she said this, I imagine them standing as though on a bridge suspended between God and earth. And she has taken her place on that bridge now. And before she died, she wanted to speak to us from there, looking straight into that camera as if into our own eyes. She said, "In the place where I am now, I want to make sure that you understand that each of you has a role to play. And I want you to know whether or not you find that role, your life does matter I want you to understand that we are part of the natural world. And even where the planet is dark, there is still hope. Don't lose hope. If you lose hope, you become apathetic and do nothing. I just hope you understand that this life on planet Earth isn't the end. I believe, and now I know, that there is life beyond death, that consciousness survives. You have it in your power to make a difference. Don't give up. There is a future for you. Do your best while you are still on this beautiful planet Earth that I look down upon from where I am now. God bless you all. So one final word about blessing. The blessing Jane leaves us with, the blessing of which Jesus spoke at the beginning of his most consequential sermon. To receive a blessing, in Jesus' understanding, and certainly in Jane's, is not a passive experience, though we might be tempted to hear it that way, you know. Blessed are the poor, blessed are those who mourn, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. But in Jesus' mother tongue of Aramaic, the word we translate blessed is an active verb, meaning in some way to set yourself on the right way for the right goal. A Palestinian Arab-Israeli theologian, Elias Chakour, suggests that we should translate Jesus' word blessed something like get up, go ahead, do something, move. And he says, while I understand Jesus' words in Aramaic, we should translate like this: get up, go ahead, do something, you who are hungry and thirsty for justice, for then you shall be satisfied. Get up, go ahead, do something, move, you peacemakers, and you shall be called children of God. It's as if Jesus is saying, get your hands dirty to build a human society for human beings, he wrote. Christianity is not passive, it is active, alive, going on, going beyond despair. So get up, go ahead, do something, move, Jesus said to his disciples. And surely Jane would say the same. God bless you all. Now go get up, go ahead, do something to preserve our beautiful planet for all living beings. And as your days, so may your strength be